Hey folks, I just wanted to do another short update on the entire situation regarding Joe Rogan and Alex Jones and the whole situation, the whole feud there. Of course, I was on Alex Jones on January 21st and 23rd, exposing the CIA's psychedelic promotion of drugs, DMT, ayahuasca, LSD, mushrooms, the whole thing. I've seen a lot of interesting omissions. Jason Burmis came out doing an interesting hit piece recently, as did, what's his name? Lou Radowski or whatever his name is. But, and saying that there was no evidence for my research on the psychedelic revolution being the real MK Ultra program itself. But on February 8th, 3 days ago, Red Ice threw in their comments on this entire situation. And interestingly, they bring up the situation with me on their show, but they, of course, don't mention my name. And I did a short update the other day saying we need to focus on their omissions in this whole thing, because what you'll see is that everybody across the board, except for Alex Jones, essentially is avoiding saying my name and discussing my work. They'll talk around my work, they'll talk about it, but they won't mention that it's my work. And I find all of this very interesting. So I'm going to play a clip here from Red Ice this week. Flashback Friday, episode 14, blackface, blah, 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 suing, naked economics, etc. But what we'll see is Lana mentioning this whole situation. And I was on Red Ice back in August 2012, August 9, 2012, discussing Gordon Wasson and the secret history of magic mushrooms. And then Lana followed up with this hit piece against me on September 12, 2012. And I did a rebuttal of Simon Powell's diatribe and Lana's softball questions up here on my website. And I have put the links to these in the show, in the notes here for this short episode. And I did a line-by-line breakdown of the whole thing here and just breaking down all of Simon Powell's diatribe. And then Simon Powell followed up shortly after that with a hit piece that he published on what was back then Daniel Pinchbeck's Reality Sandwich. They've since edited this and changed it all. But we can see here that Joe Rogan was a participant in this. Additional thanks to Joe Rogan, Tommy Decentralized, who's a troll who trolled me for years. Johnny Enoch, interestingly, did a hit piece video on me years ago and was able to edit the thumbs up or the thumbs down against my video to like 20,000 when it only had several thousand views. Obviously, access to YouTube behind the scenes, etc. But we can see Joe Rogan's name mentioned here. And so they cite my work in this stuff, in this hit piece on Red Ice without mentioning my work. So let's get into this clip here really quickly.
All right. Let's talk about Alex Jones, Joe Rogan. Actually, it's a longer clip, so I don't know exactly when he goes, but he went into some kind of meltdown mode there, going after Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
Alex
so
Jones.
tell us about Joe Rogan.
Well, Joe Rogan is a twit, right? Is an asshole. Is just a total sellout. He's become like a mouthpiece for the globalists right now. He brings on these guests all the time now that just like repeat the same bullshit, and it kind of comes in the wake of this like the Jordan Peterson kind of transformation of the movement of resistance against liberalism, which is defined or purposefully engineered to basically take people only to a certain stage, right? He's against identity politics. He's against basically white people basically speaking up on behalf of the fact that they are white and things like that. He derails that whole conversation. So Joe Rogan has kind of, I just feel he's like been kind of dragged along in that,
Yeah,
the
he
type of
drugs
guests
and weed.
he's
That's like the
on.
most important
Yeah,
thing
it's
to him.
just like DMT and weed and
I
all
have to
kinds of
tell people,
nonsense.
years ago, one of my first shows I did was years ago. My guests had touched on psychedelic mushrooms and stuff, and Joe
Yeah, the
Rogan had
fraud,
heard.
to clarify that, the kind of the that it was like a CIA fraud.
Yeah,
It was like an
I had asked
engineered.
about.
Okay, so right here, she's obviously talking about my work. And again, it's this interview. I don't recall if I was on Lana's show. I may have actually been on Lana's show too, but searching Radio 314, I did not find it. That may actually be in my archives here, so I should probably find that. It seems I probably did go on her show as well. Let me see if I can find that here. But there. They're talking around my research and they're avoiding mentioning my name. So that's what I find very interesting about this whole thing. I do see my Red Ice interview and the George Keenan letter discussion here. I'm not sure if that's probably out of this same one here, but I'll have to go back through and see if I was on Lana's Radio 314 too. And back then I was on Red Ice maybe 5-6 times. And since this episode here that I'm showing on screen and Simon Powell's hit piece against me, they have not had me back. So this is my research that they're discussing here, while they omit that this is my research.
In the 60s, kind of behind all that, the drug culture. Anyway, go on.
One of the first shows I did, and Joe Rogan had heard it and was just getting so defensive about mushrooms and was going off and slamming me. This was, I don't know, this is probably like my third or fourth.
So now I want to point out here that Joe Rogan is slamming her, and then she follows up and does this hit piece against me with Simon Powell. Now, it's becoming self-evident that Simon Powell and Joe Rogan coordinated this behind the scene. Now, in this thing here, with Simon Powell's hit piece on Reality Sandwich, this is again from 2012, there was a comment previously about an email that Joe had sent Simon Powell, and I do have a copy of that on my hard drive. I saved this whole thing. They actually went through, they edited this, and then what they did was they only left this guy, Drew Hempels. I wonder if that's Carter Drew or one of these trolls that came out after me later. But they only left his comments up, and they've deleted all of mine and everybody else's comments from this whole thing. And it's just one huge screed and attack against me. This guy Tommy Decentralized, that they mentioned above, a quote from Tommy Decentralized. So they actually, this guy actually edited one of the George Keenan letters that I have from the OSS trying to recruit the CIA. They actually went through and they edited my reading of the letter when I'm the one that has the letter. They didn't even have it. And they tried to say that I was misreading the letter that I pulled from the CIA's own archives and from the Princeton Mud Library, etc. And so this is all a later addition, but therefore I feel beyond speculation that the letter meant Keenan would secretly work for the CIA is false. Now let me just pull that letter up here. I think I posted it on Facebook because of all of the lies that were going on against me at the time. But now all of this stuff is starting to make a whole lot of sense on these players behind the scenes, what they were doing. And give me just a second and I'll have that pulled up here. But, I'm reading the letter. I have the letter. I have thousands of pages of Wasson's personal archives and whatnot. And they're trying to say what the letter says by never having seen it. And this is just absolutely absurd. And hold on, that's a letter from Wasson and Carlos Castaneda. Let me see here. Sorry, folks. I don't want to... Where'd it go here? Okay, this, I think, is it. All right, so here's the letter right here. Let me just pull this up. And, so what they want to do is they want to lie about what this letter said. And it says, I was much interested in what you had to say about the CIA, and in many ways would welcome the opportunity to work with Alan Dulles, who has been throughout extremely kind to me. But on balance, I feel I would rather make a break, a clean one at this time. Boland's experience was so shocking, and this is at the end of the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, and the launch of the CIA. And so they want to cover up this whole thing and lie about this letter that I was reading on air, and then they edited my reading of this letter on Red Ice, altered what it said, and then put it out. And Tommy Decentralized was behind this, who Simon Powell was working with, and then there was a letter that Simon Powell had read from Joe Rogan, or had quoted from Joe Rogan, and then Joe Rogan pretended that that was a letter that was never supposed to be public. So all of this, in my opinion, was coordinated behind the scenes. But let's see, and let's see, sorry, that was supposed to go the other direction and zoom in. But have strong desire to make themselves independent of government at the earliest possible moment. I feel that way myself. I reflect furthermore that if Mr. Dulles and the president were not able to use my contributions directly, they would not be much more apt to have use for them indirectly. Okay, so Dulles, the CIA, he's talking about being recruited. This is to Gordon Wasson, the so-called discoverer of magic mushrooms, and they're trying to spin what this letter says. So it's clear what it says. Everybody can read that there. But we see that Tommy Decentralized was involved in this cover-up here. We can see his name here next to Joe Rogan's. We can see another pertinent retort to Jan Irvin. But again, I want to address that I have the original post of this. This whole thing was edited in hindsight, and they even admit that they went back after Simon Powell did his big hit piece on me. He admits that he went back and finally listened to what I said and what I wrote after the fact, but then he only quotes things from the conclusion of my article on Gordon Wasson, and it's this article here, Gordon Wasson, the man, the legend, the myth, beginning a new history of magic mushrooms, ethnomycology, and the psychedelic revolution. I published this on May 12, 2013. So it appears that Lana is admitting that Joe Rogan contacted them and went ballistic, and then they did these follow-up hit pieces on me, helping Simon Powell and Joe Rogan. Now, I can't prove the behind-the-scenes going on, but it sure makes for interesting speculation. So let's go back and play a little bit more of this.
It's like all about mushrooms and drugs, and that's like the most important thing ever.
Yeah, drugs. Got those drugs, Yeah, he was like a host at Fear Factor, like this disgusting like sideshow with I think it was like people were like eating bugs, and it was like women in bikinis running around. It was like
Yeah,
just
he's
total
in that
like
Hollywood scene,
Roman degeneracy
game
kind of thing.
show. Yeah, it was like a Roman game show.
Yeah, but anyways, it was a little feud between good old Alex Jones.
Okay, so again, they're omitting me. We have to pay attention to the omissions because, again, I was on Alex Jones on January 21st, exposing all of this. Again, of course, my live feed was shut down for doing that show. But what I want to touch on also is some interesting background connections regarding Lana herself. Now, Lana, and I did a whole series exposing the music industry called Music, Mind Control, and Psychobiology with Hans Utter, and we've done over 20 shows, 25, 30 shows on all of this. Now, Lana admits that she used to work for IRS Records, who promoted Oingo Boingo, The Clash, REM, etc., and he came from a CIA family. So I was his operations manager at his record label, ARC 21 Records. So we can see here, here's ARC 21 Records, Miles Copeland. Miles Copeland of course, is the son of Miles Copeland Jr. Who's Miles Copeland Jr.? He's one of the key people that helped found the CIA, along with Gregory Bateson and a lot of these other people. And Miles Copeland's brother, Stuart Copeland, went on to play in the band The Police with Gordon Sumner, or Sting. So Lana is admitting there that she's tied in with Miles Copeland, the son of the founder of the CIA. And, and then she worked then I was also worked for Martin Landau, who is an actor at Miracle Entertainment. I worked as a producer's assistant and did various jobs on movies, from assistant to cameraman to makeup, etc. And that's Lana Lokteff. Now, interestingly, and people can go through the database here, she sued the owner of U.S. Allegiance Incorporated for sexual harassment, and these links are all in here and who this guy is. But U.S. Allegiance Incorporated ties directly to the U.S. Department of Defense and is owned by this guy, Steve Crawford. And Steve Crawford comes out of the New School for Social Research, which, here we see Margaret Mead, Gregory Bateson, co-founder of the CIA's ex-wife, also out of there, with many other people coming out of there. Some very interesting connections here. The New School for Social Research was founded by the Fabian Society. We have, John Dewey, John Maynard Keynes, Rockefeller Foundation, Eric Fromm, all of these people coming out of this. And it's a Marxist organization, and a lot of this social engineering that we see out there today is coming out of this stuff. So we have a lot of interesting connections regarding Lana and her work, possible relationship to the CIA. Here's this guy, Martin Landau. But all of this I find extremely interesting. And, interestingly, there was apparently a moving company, Happy Trails Movers, that is tied to the U.S. Army. And potentially that is who moved Lana and Henrik from Oregon. Now, they hadn't been doing the show from Norway or Sweden for years. Apparently, they had been doing it from a mini mansion in South Carolina for quite a while before they stopped mentioning Sweden, Norway, I forget. But they had been doing it from the show from the United States for quite a while at the time, while pretending that it was still being done from Europe. And so just some interesting connections there in the background of all of this. Now, I also want to show here that I've posted up a comment here about all of this. And let's see how long this stays posted there. But at 50 minutes forward, I wonder why Henrik and Lana don't admit that Lana helped Rogan and Simon Powell et al. Do their big hit piece on me after I came on Red Ice exposing all of this. See my interview of August 9, 2012 on Red Ice. I'm just one of the first shows, apparently, and that's if I don't, like I said, I don't remember if it was the Red Ice or Radio 314. She's either referring to my show or Simon Powell's. But why does Lana avoid mentioning my name? It's pathetic. And I love how she also avoided mentioning that I was on InfoWars on January 29, 2019. Again, pay attention to their omissions. And, exposing all of this again. Here is Lana's and Simon Powell's September 12, 2012 hit piece against me. Notice the softball questions that Lana throws at Powell, while Powell lies and spins and goes into the ridiculous. All lies and spin. Lana refused to apologize to me or have me back on to rebut Powell, and then blocked me on Facebook, ignored my messages and emails at all in the aftermath. And maybe Lana's ties to Miles Copeland III, son of the CIA co-founder Miles Copeland Jr., and U.S. State Department via U.S. Allegiance Inc. has something to do with it. Still waiting for that apology and invite back regarding all of this, screen captured for when you delete this post. And then I said, the irony is their admission that Rogan went apeshit about my interview, and then they had Simon Powell on, and then Simon Powell followed up with a hit piece against me on Reality Sandwich, citing Rogan in it. So it would appear that the whole hit piece against me was orchestrated behind the scenes. Thanks for revealing that little bit. So something is going on here with all of this nonsense. And, people are lying apparently in a big cover up here regarding all of this. But I just thought all of you should know what's going on. Again, my live feed on the main channel is shut down. I really appreciate any, support. They're trying to push me out entirely for exposing all of this. So again, please, support the show, support my work. Please go to the Logos Media website and donate. They really don't want this work that I've exposed getting out. You can go to the Logos Media website and just hit contribute up here, hit the donate button, support the work. You can donate by Bitcoin, whatever on there. I'm not being funded by Bitcoin or coin, whatever, any of these other things. I'm solely funded by you guys and what left of book sales I have from old books that I'm not even behind anymore. So please support the show. I appreciate all your help. And it's just wild, Anyway, take care, everyone. Thanks for all of those who showed up this morning and jumped in. Take care. Have a good day. Bye.